mentored by Archbishop Tutu that apologized for apartheid. You have individuals like Leon Wessels, Rolf Meyer, who were members of the cabinet, who have apologized generally. What, of course, the public wants is that somebody must be able to say, we authorized people, our men, to kill so-and-so. That is not forthcoming, but the general apology has been made. I think that it's a great deal of concern that people like de Klerk have tried to avoid the responsibility. I think it's a great deal, it's a tragedy. And once, of course, he took that line, many of his colleagues, you see, also took that line.
Not one military general has applied for amnesty, and not a single judge has come forward. Yet it was the judiciary that gave apartheid a veneer of respectability. Today, many of the same judges are administering the law in the new South Africa.
Reconciliation is not going to a Truth and Reconciliation Commission and publicly apologizing for your sins. It's actually the government introducing measures which will redistribute wealth from those who benefited under apartheid to those who suffered under apartheid. Now that to us would have been what true conciliation is all about. And the failure to do that, I think, has made the whole reconciliation process a bit of a farce.
This is Sandton Municipality in Johannesburg. Here, in fortified splendor, live some of the richest people in the world. Representing 5% of the population, they and the rest of white South Africa control 88% of the national wealth. And yet they, not the majority, are the material beneficiaries of democracy. No longer international pariahs, they can now travel and play sport and do business wherever in the world they like, secure in the delusion that they gave freedom to the majority. They've been asked to give up nothing, not even a modest wealth tax. Crime is the issue behind the razor wire and the alarm systems, not the great crime of apartheid that destroyed millions of lives and stole the nation's wealth. There is a lot of property crime, but it's also the code for the encroachment of the unemployed across the old dividing lines between black and white. What is remarkable is the degree of restraint exercised by the impoverished majority, given the continuing display of wealth by a minority and the adaptation of many of the injustices of the past. This is Alexandra, literally across the road from wealthy Sandton, a community of 500,000 people squeezed into an area of less than a square mile and a half, where the majority have no jobs, and up to 15 families live in one slum. And although they drive past it, many whites hardly know it exists. How long will people accept the conditions they're living in here?
I think already there are signs of disillusionment and, in a way, resentment, beginning to show in the township. It's not only Alexandra, I think other townships as well. So if nothing happens between, now and 99, I think most people will begin to say, why should I vote? What change does it make? And to me, in order for reconciliation to be meaningful, I think we have to talk about transforming society fundamentally so that, black people don't feel like we are once more sacrificing. We sacrificed under apartheid, and again, we're sacrificing unemployment within a place like Alexandra, for example, as I said, 60%. Now, those people will continue to resent their white, counterparts, as long as, these disparities continue to exist. If President Mandela, for instance, goes to the Congress of the trade unions, then he would emphasize the fact that people should tighten their belts. I think the answer to that is people have been, their belts have been tightened, you know, since time immemorial.
Can I tell you about the dress? It's actually, it's on a very fine, transparent mesh that you can wear with or without the lining.
I was nominated Best Dressed Woman of South Africa, and I'm, you know, people wait to see what I'm wearing because there's always something different. It's never quite the same.
You don't have one of those sort of Imelda Marcos wardrobes, do you? Where
Yes, I
she had
do.
all the shoes.
Yes, I
dresses.
do. I have all the dresses and the shoes.
Oh, really?
I have the whole lot.
My God. Another world record has gone.
Well, you don't get to have the one without the other.
Yeah,
You've got to have,
you have to,
everything.
yeah.
It's the kind of new
It's
South
very
Africa as a
yeah,
dress,
it's very
really, isn't it?
exciting.
Yeah. Do you think that people, white people, actually know how black people live now? Do they go to those places? Those old...
I think there's a far greater awareness now, definitely.
I would say we know, but we don't go.
Yeah.
You know, you're crazy.
But, you know, now
don't go there.
with the abolishment of apartheid, you find a lot of black people who can afford it have now moved into the so-called white areas, which is fabulous for them.
The jewellery she's wearing is worth more than £100,000. Half the African people of South Africa have an income of less than £12 a week. I must say, a bit difficult to find somebody who supported apartheid. These days, everyone seems to be against it.
Everyone now, everyone,
No one
because
was there.
nobody wants to, No, we were all there.
We were all there.
And a lot of people supported it at the time. Like I say, I didn't. I always felt uncomfortable.
And I don't think anyone's now going to say how great apartheid was, so you're going to have to search really hard.
You're going to look under
find
every
one.
bed and under every bush and every rock. Yeah.
This is the memorial to Cecil Rhodes overlooking Cape Town. It's extraordinary it's still here. Long before the Boers declared racism official policy in South Africa, Rhodes had laid the foundations for a more durable form of apartheid. "I prefer land to niggers," said Rhodes, who was until recently the idol of English liberalism in Africa. As Prime Minister of the Cape in the late 19th century, Rhodes showed how liberal he was. He drove much of the black population into reserves where they were used as cheap, dependent labour. Above all, he was a businessman of the most rapacious kind, and the system he and British business helped to build in southern Africa would soon produce an undreamed-of balance sheet.
The South African gold mining industry during the 60s and the 70s was one of the most profitable industries in the world. It was hugely profitable. It made millions. The profits made on a single worker were unmatched, unparalleled in industry or in mining anywhere else in the world.
Democracy has made little difference to the lives of the 70,000 miners who work here on the goldfields at Carltonville. The local miners' union representative, Franz Bellini, makes his daily calls to find out how many men were killed or injured overnight.
Last night there was no fatal accident, save for Friday, where 2 people were killed. And yesterday there was a local inspection where the inspector of mines went underground to actually see the scene of the accident.
Is that a common kind of accident?
Well, I think it's negligence, because when a shaft is being cleared, nothing should be happening above them in the shaft. So rocks to have fallen in the shaft, it's a clear man negligence.
Since mining began in South Africa, 69,000 men have been killed in accidents. It's been estimated that the human cost of every ton of gold mined is 1 life and 12 serious injuries.
Those are statistics that are of great concern. What we have always said is South African mining, gold mining in particular, is the deepest mining in the world. All mining has risk. South African mining has the most risk. There is no such thing as risk-free mining. What one has to do is to mitigate the risk. And that requires a number of interactions, technical interactions, human interactions. And I think as we would gladly accept now, those require cooperative management employee interactions, which may not perhaps have always been there to the degree that was desired.
You may be aware of the business report study, which was taken from safety data of the Chamber of Mines. That's it. It says that that in 1995, Anglo-American had the highest gold mining fatality rate of all the major mining houses, even if you excluded the 104 men killed in the Reefs accident of that year. Unfortunately, there is no response from the company in that. What would your response be to that?
Highly regrettable, but perhaps one would have had a headline on 1994. That would have been different. 1993, that would have been different.
What was the situation then?
Anglo-American did not have the highest, and some other company had the highest. After all, there has to be one that has the highest every year.
To the lay eye, and you say these figures are regrettable, they're shocking figures. The government mining engineer, Mr. Bakker, said in almost every accident, he's talking about the whole industry, not just your company, one can find underlying causes. There is a lack of management systems, supervision, training and negligence, and a lax enforcement of standards. And you say it's just mining. Is this man he has it all wrong? Is that it?
No, I think that that's certainly part of a much broader issue.
This man is the government mining engineer. He says that in every accident there are underlying causes, and they have to do with negligence. What's the company's response to that? If it isn't a selective quote, what's the company's response?
I've given you my response, John,
what is it
to the entire subject. I've given you in general terms, and I think that's what I have to say at the moment.
The most devastating cost to these men remains hidden. A third of all black miners have succumbed to deadly lung disease with little compensation. This continues today.
If you take into account that there have been perhaps 2 million mine workers who've passed through the mines just in the last 10 years, and over the last 100 or so, many, many millions. And if 20 or 30% of all those contracted these diseases, a great many people have died in southern Africa.
Cough, cough, cough. Deep. Cough.
I think that what's being done around dust is appalling. There is no research. The statistics are hidden. There is very little work being done on reducing dust in the workplace. And I say this on the basis of practical exposure to the mining industry and a long involvement in health and safety on the mines. Dust is ignored, it's neglected. It doesn't kill people like a rockfall does. It's an insidious, slow killer. It's killing people far away. It's killing them quietly. Their clockwork's running down, their batteries are drying up, and they're dying. It's not getting the attention it deserves.
Why?
Because the people who are dying are so far away. The people who are dying are out in the country. The people who are dying aren't important people.
They're not important people?
Not in the South African context.
What do you mean?
They're rural people. They're poor people. They're people without a voice. They're people who are inarticulate. They're people on the fringes. They're working class people. In neighboring countries, in our most remote rural areas, these are the people who have no voice, they have no say, they have no influence. They simply die quietly.